Thank you again, Lumka, for your time with us this afternoon. Let's kick off with you just introducing yourself to us.
Okay, so I am Lumka Maneli. By profession, my background is that I have medical background. I'm an occupational medical practitioner. I have my own company which focuses on occupational health and corporate wellness. So basically, I'm a mother of two, and what some of the things that how I like to describe myself is that I am I'm an advocate for self-care and encouraging people to take full participation in their own health. And so going to the topic for today is I also had to look at my own life and to see what is it that I'm contributing to the society, and looking at what the country has been grappling with in terms of the gender-based violence and other social ills.
Yeah.
And being the one that's sitting on the bench complaining about everything that's happening that's not good in our country, I was like, so Lumka, what is going to be your contribution? And during that time, I was also in conversations with a friend of mine, and we were just talking about the role of men in the society and the role of the family and how broken families are, and maybe that being the source of the ills that we see in the society, knowing very well that family is the basic unit of society.
Brilliant. And then, of course, this passion, this recognition for these issues around the role of men, the social ills that we see, the scourge of gender-based violence in the country, then of course culminated in a book, right? Which is quite a powerful compilation of letters, right? And walk us through briefly why this particular format, right?
So this book, like I said, it came out of conversations, with my fellow compiler, Sophia Skosana, the one that we set about, and we were talking about what the interventions that have been there, that, the more interventions are there, it looks like the more this problem is getting bigger, it's growing. And we were just talking about perhaps we need to go to the source. So the source being what happened to these men. Perhaps the interventions are more focused on the men who are already broken in a sense, and then we need maybe to go back to find out what happened to them and also go back to them before they were broken. And so we decided that the focus should be the boy child.
Yeah.
And how the society views the boy child and how we as a society contribute to this boy child in how this boy child turns out to be, whether good or bad. So what is the contribution of the mother? What is the contribution of the family at large? And what is the contribution of the society? So one of the things that came out strongly that we always heard about was the absence of fathers in the boys, and also looking in the South African context that most households are led by women. And we thought that perhaps we need to find a way of bringing this male voice to the boy child, the absent father to the boy child. And we thought of many ways of doing it, but we felt like maybe a letter written, because then if it's a book, unlike if it's a workshop where they are going to attend and then they go away and forget and feel good at the time when they met the people and they are chatting. With the book, then they get to keep and they can refer to it all the time. So for us, we wanted to provide really a tool that they can always refer to. We then sent out, using social media and other platforms to ask men from all walks of life who can contribute and write a letter. And we wanted it to be a conversation that imagine that you are looking at this child, you're writing this letter to this boy child. Or you can even think of yourself at that age, because the target group was 12 to 18. Think of yourself at that group. What advice you would have loved to hear at that time?
Yeah. In your view, do you think the boy child is forgotten or left behind in, let's talk about the South African society? And I think all of these initiatives that you hear that, you know, people come up with and try to do, focusing on the girl child or youth broadly, I think are all attempts, and well-intentioned, but along the way, and that's the sense one gets also as you start engaging the book, and also just in conversations of this nature, that boys have been forgotten or left behind as this project of elevating the girl child, and, you know, empowering girl children, young women.
Definitely, definitely. Because I think, as you said, that in trying to, to level the ground between the gender, the male and females, we sort of left the boys behind. And I think there were unintended consequences in that, because we have now boys that I think now men are also confused at times about what is their role in the society. Because if you look at things, so the women are being empowered to know that they can do what the men can do, right? And there is no focus focus on the boys to say, we also need you to understand that as much as the girl child can do the technical things, the hardcore things, you also are allowed to have the soft skills. You are also allowed, like the girl child, to show off your emotions. And I mean, for instance, if I can take you back also when you were still young, even before now, the introduction of the focus on the girl child, I find that the boy child has always been at a disadvantage in a way, even though maybe growing up at the time we felt that they had more advantage. They didn't have to account. For instance, we go to our household, so the girl child needed to know that it needs to be home at a certain time, the light has to be on. So the girl child from the beginning is groomed to make a home.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the boy child doesn't get the same training. So for them, all they do is pushing the stones outside, imagining that these are cars. So they are always outside the home front, and focus is on cars and sport and that. And they are not supposed to show emotions. The only emotions that we applaud them for showing is when they are being aggressive or they can stand up for themselves.
Yes.
And the society doesn't allow them to express the other emotions like crying. And we have these boys then who grow up to be men who are not in touch with their emotions, men who don't know how to make a household a home. So now when they are older and now they get married, they don't understand the stress of, I need to be home by this time. I have a responsibility of doing. The girl child has been groomed for this role, and whereas the boy child is not. And then now, as they grow older, the other disillusion comes when now we are trying to balance things also in the workplaces or just outside home, where we say we need to give opportunities to women. Mm-hmm. And also the focus is on the girl child and also on women. And also now the things that the boy child was groomed to do, which is to provide and to protect, they find that actually the people we're supposed to provide for, the people we're supposed to protect, they can do these things for themselves. Mm. Therefore, what is my purpose here? What is my role? And if I can just add on that, I've always felt also that, also us as women, we have power on these things. If these men, it's us who give them life, and it's us who bring them up from the young boy, I think we also have the opportunity to mold them to be the men that we want to see in the society. Especially in our context in South Africa, when we are told that we have a problem of absent fathers. It means then that the present parents are normally the women. And so it's also something I always think about, that if it's us, it's the women who bring up these men, where do we lose it? That we bring up men that come back and hurt us, that when we bring up men that come and assault us, men that do all these kind of things that they do to us. So where do we lose the plot? Because how do we then blame the absent parent when you were the one who was here with this person?
Woo, yo, Lumka, that's a tough one. That is a tough one because, sure, right? Already, I can only imagine. I'm not a parent myself. I can already imagine you've got so much, right, that you have to deal with, hoping that you are raising a decent enough human being who, you know, at the very, very least won't cause harm to the next person. And you hope that they'll, you know, achieve the greatest things, or just be a decent individual. And then they go out and, you know, somewhere along the way, especially where they go out in the world, and probably even in their early teens, you no longer have a full or a complete sense what's really going on in their minds. Goodness, if we open up the conversation about what they are exposed to, the sort of conversations they're having at school, what they're seeing and watching online and so on, right? I can't imagine anybody, any parent really arguing that they can have complete control. And then it so happens that this very child happens to then do the most heinous of things, whether it's murdering someone or raping someone or killing someone or just being an aggressive individual. To then take that on yourself as a parent, oh my goodness, right? I mean, it all feels unfair. Not to say you may perhaps look back and say, this may have contributed, maybe I was too much like this, or but surely you can't put that on yourself as a parent on the sort of decisions, because ultimately it is a decision. I don't want us to get to it just in a moment. I'll let you respond to this, but I want us to get specifically to the question of accountability. And I think that quite a bit of it comes up from some of the letters, right? To say, you know, if we talk about unemployment and the pressure that many people have to deal with in a society such as ours, with so many issues, you ultimately have a choice. You have a choice, right? And men must be held accountable for their actions and the choices that they then choose to make. So how do we have that conversation around accountability? And then to your point about single mothers or mothers who raise children on their own, how much of this, right, do you take on and blame yourself for the issues that we have?
I like the fact that you brought up the word, the accountability, because I think more often people want to blame the next person for poor outcomes of anything. We never sit back and see what was my role in this. And so this is something, and you are right, it came out so often in many of the letters, the choices that people make and accountability. And you were reminding these boys that it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, one day you're going to have to account for the choices that you've made. And at some point, you're no longer going to blame your upbringing. You cannot blame the absent parent, or you cannot blame the parent that you're with and the shortcomings that came with you having a single parent, but you'll have to account at some point for that. I think the point that I was trying to make earlier also was around the fact that you know, we really need to, and I mean, the problems that we have in society, they don't have one cause, right? So it's multifactorial. And also, as we were coming up with the book, we understood that this is the tool to assist with many other interventions that are there, and we acknowledge all the other interventions, all other organizations that are coming up with solutions to the things that we see. Basically, what we wanted with this tool is to teach the boys that we can only blame other people to a certain point, but at some point you're going to account, right? And also mothers, they also need to understand that they'll need to take some accountability for for the outcome of the boys without having to apportion the blame. So they won't be able to apportion all the blame to the absent parent, because they had the possibility, they have the opportunity to turn things around. And if I can also go back that it's not, I mean, if you look at it, Sebenzile, it's not always only the boys that are coming from fatherless homes that go out and do ugly things.
Yeah, yeah.
So we cannot always blame that. So we have kids that are coming from what we see as loving homes with both parents being there, and they still go out. And also, this is the good age for people to also start looking for mentors, because even the ones who have fathers at home, we find often that once they become teenagers, once they become teenagers, they sort of start being enemies with their parents, right?
Yeah.
So their parents cannot take, so they look for inspiration, they look at the outside world for inputs into their life and inputs on how they make decisions and how they navigate life. For some reason, teenagers, you start to feel like, but Mama doesn't understand, but Papa doesn't understand. And it always helps to have the person who's not the parent, who's outside, who then come as that mentor.
I'd like to just get to talk about how you selected, right, the list of contributors. I know you said you put it out there, and you asked folks to say, hey, listen, this is what we're doing. Please contribute. But these are also not just regular people who are not doing anything with their lives, right? These are people who are I saw you have, I tackled, given the issues that we're having with water currently in Gauteng, and I saw Eddie, good old Eddie here, and I know people, if they see his name, will think, where's the water, Eddie?
Yeah.
You have, senior pastor at Hope Restoration Ministries, Mfundisi Matebula, who contributed. You have professionals, you have academics, people who are, who've made something of themselves. It really is quite a powerful, compilation from individuals who are highly accomplished in a variety of fields. How did you land on this list of contributors?
So, like I said, we sent out asking for letters, and we also sort of targeted certain individuals to ask them that this is what we're trying to do. And believe you me, others, they didn't ask many questions, which what excited us. I think one of the letters, I practically contacted the writer around 9:05 in the evening to say, this is what we do, we would like a letter like this. And before 10 o'clock the same evening, that's how excited he was for this initiative. And we had his letter. And so obviously with a project like this, you will have some people sending the letters, or other people wanting to find out what is in there for me, what am I going to get in return. And just by judging by some of those questions, like perhaps this is not the kind, this is not the men we are looking for to contribute if they are not getting what we're trying to do.
Sure.
And so I think also when God gives you an assignment, he sort of gives you already tools and people that are going to be there. It's not like when an idea that is put on you it's for you to, what can I say? There are already people that are there that are going to get what you're trying to do. And we realize as we're compiling the book that actually we also provided something else. Because through this book, we also sort of showed the boys, or we are going to be showing the boys that there are men out there that despite their background, despite the difficulties that they had, they did choose different pathways that led to where they are. So for us, when we had the great men that we had that gave us their letters, we were so grateful for the fact that they brought that realization that not all men are that bad. Yeah. And they gave us role models for the boys. people to look up to. And some of them, they had opened themselves to say, I'm open to, if any, that's why we have their pictures and who they are, so that if the boys wants to go on social media and get in touch with them, some of them, they are open to be mentors to these boys. But then it's going to take now the boy, after reading the book, and it's their responsibility to reach out to this man to say, can I learn more about your journey? And how can you help me to navigate my way?
Earlier, we spoke a bit about, identity, and finding what your role is in the world. Outside of what you've been told men should do, what women should do, outside of what you've also witnessed, whether from teachers, men in your community, men within the home who are there. From your own experiences, from this, from the book itself, feedback you received from perhaps some of the young boys and men who've engaged it, what are perhaps some of the things that are coming forth, right? To say the world is changing quite a bit. What are they saying about this issue around identity? Who am I in the world?
Yeah, I think, as you say that, I just want, because already from your question, I thought of 3 letters from the book. And the first one was on your source of courage, where, the writer there, the writer of the letter, he talks about the fact that he had both parents at home, but he quickly realized that to put your source of confidence on one man, it was too much of a burden for his father. Sure. That he's going to expect his source of confidence, his father, to be everything for him. And at a certain point in his age, in his life, he decided that I need something bigger. So that's when he put his trust to God. And then the other letter that also speaks to that I'm thinking about is the one with the role of a man in the family, because the letter takes us through, especially in the African context, what is the role and how the boy child is raised to be, that one day you will be the person that you are in charge, with the head of this family. And then there's also now the letter that is specifically on identity. And that letter talks about, think of life as having this suitcase where you decide on the suitcase what you're going to put in, what you're going to put out of the suitcase. And remember that you're the one who's going to carry the suitcase. And therefore, how heavy this suitcase is going to be, is going to be killing you if it's too heavy. So you need to decide what you want to pack there. So as you go through life, it's your responsibility to decide who you want to be. And also there's also another letter that says, you need to live a purposeful life, but that purpose only you would find out, because every individual, you come through your parents to this world, but only you will know what you are here for. Yeah. So you need to find time to be quiet and reach into your own inner being and find out how to navigate. And that takes away your parents, that takes away the family, that takes away the society, and it gives you the responsibility that who do you want to be, and what form, like what kind of life you want to lead, and what impact you want to leave behind. And it's all on you.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a powerful thing that all these letters were aligned to teach the boy child to be accountable earlier on in life.
I really love the theme of the idea of leading self versus leading others, right? Because so much of, oh, I'm the man, I'm the head of the family. So a lot of it is so much about others, right? And being able to, and I think this is, for everybody, not just men, but just that being able to lead yourself. And if we all are doing that, you hope at least you are, of course, dealing with at least half the problem. Because if you're dealing with whatever it is that you need to work through, you're accountable for yourself. Essentially, everybody's taking care of each other. Do you think that sort of idea resonates in the sort of times we live in currently?
It does, Sebenzile, because as you put it, that the world would be a better place if everyone could lead themselves first. Because more often we are quick to point out faults at other people and we don't look at our own contribution into the mess that we found in terms of the social ill. So everyone, when there's something happening, we are quick to find out who's doing this, who's responsible. It's the government, it's the men, it's the parents, they're not parenting, it's this. But then I think if every individual can come back and say, me, myself, and there's power actually in coming to self, because the thing is, you cannot control or change other people, but you can change self.
Yeah. Did anything surprise you from this process and some of what came through from these letters?
Some of the things I've mentioned. The other one was also, it came as a surprise to us, or it was a learning curve when we realized that, you know what, we didn't imagine that these letters can do more than just being a tool, but they can also provide this awareness that there are still good men out there. So that was also a beautiful thing for us. And as we were going through some of the letters, we realized that men are hurting. So some of the letters, and some, even though at the end, the person, you're not getting exactly what they are trying to say to the boy child, but you get a sense that the person got an opportunity, to take whatever that was bothering him. So in a way, it was sort of like a therapeutic thing for some of the men who were writing these letters. And we also had some men that then came out to say, I think this is such a big project, and I don't feel worthy of contributing in such.
Wow.
I would love to support your initiative at the later stage, but for some reason I looked at the briefing and what you're looking for, and it made me to think hard and long, and I find myself unworthy.
Wow.
And I see there are a lot of initiatives that are focusing on men, and I am grateful for that. I see in many social media platforms, in radio stations, where we're trying to create safe space for men. I think it's very important for us to make it okay for men to voice out their vulnerabilities, make it okay for men to be vulnerable and to be able to create safe spaces for them and not ridicule them. Because this is what sometimes we do as well. When we see men who show their emotions, and then we start giving them men, they are soft, they are not men enough. And when they keep it all inside and then they explode and use the aggression in that explosion, again, the society is taken aback by that response. And it's sad because it makes it already difficult for them to also seek help. Men find it difficult because the fear of being ridiculed. So they keep things inside, and eventually when it's too much for them, there is aggression. And it's not only towards women, it's also aggression towards themselves, because you also realize that also the rate of suicide. So this aggressive behavior, it's not only directed towards others, sometimes it's also directed to themselves.
To harm themselves,
To harm themselves.
Sure. Dr. Lumka Maneli, this is absolutely powerful. In like the last 30 seconds that we have, your message to the little kid in this pic, right? And the many others, I think, who could benefit greatly from this, or the men, I suppose, who never had the opportunity to have advice like this be sent to them. What do you say to them?
I think this book, it gives a message of hope, a message of encouragement. It provides tools for people, for the boy child to have confidence that I have this, right? That things might be bad right now, but they will be okay at some point, and I've got this. And I don't need to resort to violence. I don't need to resort to criminal acts for the society to see me. So there are good men there that I can emulate. There are good men there that I can reach out to
And we say thank you. We say thank you to you and encourage you to keep going. I think this is such an important contribution towards finding a way, of course, to resolve the many social ills that we have in this country. Ngiyabonga kakhulu for making time to speak to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sisi.